Good morning, everyone. I'm Jamie Berry with MDHA. Just want to say a few words before we get started. First and foremost, for those of you who are here with us in person, thank you so much. We were very careful to keep the list to 25 or less. And I just want to do a couple quick reminders. Unless you're speaking at the podium, please wear your mask. So when we go up for the ribbon cutting, make sure you keep your mask on. And then make sure you maintain a social distance of 6 feet at all times. And before I turn it over to MDHA Executive Director Jim Harbison, I just want to say a special thanks to those who are allowing us to go virtual for this event. And that would be Metro News Network, Operation Stand Down Tennessee, and MDHA's IT department. Logistically, I know this was a nightmare, but I so appreciate everything you have done to allow us to broadcast this live to the folks who really wanted to see this. So thank you again.
Well, good morning, everyone. Let's take my mask off. Thank you for joining us for this celebration. Thanks to this small group personally, and thanks to the much larger COVID-driven virtual audience. I'm Jim Harbison, and as you can see, I'm a former Marine officer, a veteran, but most importantly, I'm your Housing Authority Executive Director. We're here for the grand opening of Curb Victory Hall, 39 studio, 1- and 2-bedroom apartments, affordable, super product, permanent supportive housing for veterans experiencing homelessness. And as we work through the process to determine who our next Commander-in-Chief is, I have been struggling for the right words to convey, for me personally, how important today's ribbon cutting is. And I had to turn to someone more articulate than I to convey this meaning. And I go back to the president when I was a small child here, just up the street on 20th Avenue South, President John F. Kennedy, who said, as we express our gratitude, we must not forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them and do actions. Curb Victory Hall is just that. It is a brilliant example of successful private, nonprofit, public, across both aisles, collaboration, and a physical manifestation of our respect and care for those who have faithfully and solemnly lived this oath. I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will take true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely, without mental purpose or purpose of evasion, and I will well and faithfully discharge the duties to which appointed, so help me God. Long ago, I took this oath. It has changed little in our republic over 244 years. Over 17 million veterans today are alive who also took this oath to defend the Constitution. We did so in a common belief of the aspirations that underpin it, that all people are created equal with inalienable rights, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Those words we're so familiar with. This aspirational promise gives hopes to everyone, not just in Nashville, but in our nation. And I can assure you from over 20 years overseas, across the world, this gives hopes to millions. For veterans, their oath made clear their vision of the world they wanted to live in. Not one defined by violent jihadists, and not a nation whose citizens are determined by their birth, their ethnicity, their chromosome count, their orientation, their belief system, or the size of their parents' wallet. What would determine their lives would be the content of their character, their work, and their individual personal decisions on how they want to live their life and fulfill their God-given talents. I will say that living this oath and answering the country's call for veterans, and there are many on the MDHA staff and I know are here in the audience, that you face at least potentially physically and mentally crippling hard work, generally in unforgiving climates and environments. More likely, it's dangerous close combat, and at most, you or your friends pay with your lives. Yet no veteran I ever knew shirked from their duty. And with their comrades, we invested our youth, freely facing sometimes daunting odds and the random nature of chance for injury, death, and battlefield wounds. And on a return from service, these formative experiences become part of your DNA. If you cut Jim Harbison, he still bleeds Green Marine Corps. Still Green Marine Corps. For my fellow service members, it's the same way. And sometimes our service burdens, together with changing economic conditions and the world we return to, our transition from being great soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines to being great citizens is very problematic. It's hard. Some suffer from some disabilities, physical, post-traumatic, but none lose their commitment to their oath, nor lack the will to be great citizens, great employees, friends and neighbors, people anyone will want to be around. The veteran is that source of great capability, skill, and experience, eager to weave back in the fabric of their nation. And that's where Operation Standout comes in. One of our great partners today, they provide and connect veterans and their families with comprehensive resources, focusing on their transition to civilian life, job placement, and their health as they bridge that gap between two cultures, the military and the civil. Their presence on 12th Avenue here demonstrates how Nashville can work together, and in a common aim, we can set an example for the national community of private donors, local, state, and federal governments, regardless of red or blue, how we can come together to send the message to the veterans that it's not just words, it's material resources. This site began on Mayor Purcell's watch. This site continues on Mayor Cooper's watch. This site is supported by a Republican state and a Republican executive branch, and deeply supported by a Democratic local governing entity and all its supporting pieces, along with private donors and nonprofits. So how did this all start? Well, it started on a napkin with a guy named Tony Giantana and a cup of coffee, the three of us, and he said, "Have you thought about this?" And from that napkin, another great partner, Mr. Mike Kerb and his wife Linda, donated $500,000, which was the seed money that got this started. And from there, the partners came to join us. THTA, thank you. 9% innovative low-income housing tax credit. We couldn't do it without you. A $500,000 grant. Mr. Kerb, thank you. You're not here. Your donation. Tony, your time, effort, and money. And Operation Standout, our great partner, whose wraparound services will make veterans have not just a home, or not just an apartment, but a home with friends. So in partnership with our Veterans Affairs, and Daniel in the audience, the VA provides the money that pays the rent for the tenants in the apartments. Thank you to HUD. Denise, thank you for that lovely letter that you sent. Thank you for being here, Sonorma, and your continued support. You administer the VA funds. Thank you to the Tennessee Valley Healthcare System and Veterans Affairs for helping us with future and current residents. And Mayor Cooper, thank you. You said everything would be about affordable housing. It has. Your presence here demonstrates it. And I'd be remiss not to mention my Board of Commissioners, who couldn't all be here because we have the COVID restrictions, including our great board chair, former Mayor Purcell, and our predecessor board chairman, Ralph Mosley and Charles Robert Baum. Recall, as mayor, he was instrumental to get OSD to start here. So Kerb Victory Hall is 39 units, granite countertops, stainless steel appliances, custom closets donated by California Closets. And I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize the people who put a lot of sweat and effort into this, the great MDHA staff, which is hard for me not to get emotional about because I'll be leaving them soon. But Will Guiney, I don't know if you're out there, I saw you earlier. You've lived on this site as a project manager. Young man, you've done a tremendous job. Buck Dellinger and the development team, the finance team, all of you. This is how you do it, and it's not easy. But when you bring everybody together, it can be real. Of the 37 apartments set aside for veterans, 14 are already occupied. I'm pleased that Rico is here. You're going to hear from him shortly. He's one of the tenants. Infantryman, combat veteran, the kind of guy you want to take care of. But I just finished with saying it's been a privilege to watch this come together. It's been a privilege to be part of it, although I didn't personally do a lot. Mainly, I just approve things. Mainly, I just listen to other guys give me an idea. But I get to stand in front of you and represent veterans who say thank you. And to my fellow veterans, people do care. It's not just words. Just look at Curb Victory Hall. Now I'd like to introduce one of my great friends, John Crenson, to the podium to say a few words. John is the CEO of Operation Stand Down and has been a great partner in this whole event.
Well, Jim, Colonel, thank you very much for those great words that really beautifully illustrate both the high level of what Curb Victory Hall is all about and what it means for our veterans, but then also at that individual, detailed, tactical level of how this thing came about. And so, Colonel, I love seeing you in uniform, and I salute you. Thank you for a job well done with this, and especially for your watch at MDHA. I also want to thank Eden, our new CEO. I've actually retired here very, very recently. Unfortunately, due to a family obligation, she is not able to be here today. But selfishly, that gave me the opportunity to be here and be part of this event, which is so dear to my heart because what this means for veterans, this is a landmark. This is a landmark initiative that stands in rare air with different things that have taken place for veterans. I want to thank Arlie Haddix right back over here. He is our new Chief Operating Officer. I want to thank all of our staff, and I want to thank the Operation Stand Down Tennessee Board of Directors, especially Martha Boyd, who was our board president as all this came about and came to develop. You know, what happened to get this to happen and what's happening today is not normally how things happen. And it's kind of outside the comfort zones for public entities and especially for nonprofits. And so I really give a lot of tribute to our board of directors for really being able to see the opportunity and to seize that. But there's two people that have to be thanked, and just have to be thanked. And I'm just honored to be sandwiched on this agenda between two visionaries and two innovators. Tony Giarratana, who Jim has already credited, and rightfully so, with the brainchild, the idea to bring this into being. It came from Tony Giarratana. He approached Jim, approached me, and we got together, and because of him and because of all the effort of all of our teammates, this was able to happen. But Tony had a vision about housing, even back in the 90s, when it came to downtown living. I'm a Nashville native, and I remember hearing in the early 90s, hey, they're building apartments downtown Nashville. I said, you gotta be crazy. Who's crazy enough to do that? Well, we know a crazy person who was crazy enough to do that and did it well. And that's leadership. And things are happening all over Nashville because of that. But Tony's also had a vision for affordable housing. And Curb Victory Hall is a part of that. Because of his success, he now is in a position to empower and enable success across all demographics, all society, and we're particularly grateful for veterans. And Jim Harbison, recognized on a national level as an innovator in affordable housing, the Envision process, Curb Victory Hall. And what's really beautiful about this is Curb Victory Hall and Envision Edge Hill are connected. And it's not just about affordable housing. It's about true integration of people in neighborhoods. Not a place over here for this folks and a place over here for these folks. It's a place for all folks. And that is what Operation Stand Down Tennessee is moving into in our services for veterans, and is what Jim Harbison has been doing for quite a while at MDHA. And Jim, you will be missed. You will be missed. So what does Curb Victory Hall mean for the veteran homeless community? Well, I'll say one thing, it shows a commitment and a demonstration to veterans across the community. Jim's already laid it out. Public sector, private sector businesses, private sector individual philanthropists, nonprofits, federal, local, state, the whole 9 yards. This is how you get things done. And that's why they don't happen very often, unfortunately, because it takes a lot of people, oftentimes with seemingly competing interests, to agree on one interest and come together to make it happen. So that's quite a statement to veterans who have put their lives on the line to see the commitment across a broad section of the community come together for them. It also means that we're bringing down that veteran homeless number in Nashville, Davidson County, Tennessee. You know, 5, 6 years ago, as this was becoming an idea, the by name list of homeless veterans was well over 200 individuals, and some of them with families in tow. We're now down around 170 to 180, if the last count, I believe, was about a week or so ago. Curb Victory Hall has already put 14 people in housing to bring that number to that point, and we got a few more units to fill. We will get that homeless count down to around 140 because of Curb Victory Hall. And because of Curb Victory Hall, we have a model and no excuse not to bring that down to end veteran homelessness in Nashville, Tennessee, and Davidson County. It puts Operation Stand Down in Tennessee in a better position to serve our veterans. You've seen the evolution of this campus from 10 years ago when it was a Piggly Wiggly to now a state-of-the-art service centers for veterans, and in large part made possible because of the creative financing and deal and partnership that was worked out with MDHA and Tony Giratana and Operation Stand Down Tennessee to make this. Without Curb Victory Hall, Operation Stand Down Tennessee would not be what you are seeing here today. It is as simple as that. And this campus continues to grow. We have Creative Vets, a fantastic nonprofit led by post 9/11 veterans, Purple Heart veterans, that help veterans in innovative, creative ways, hence the name, with mental health issues and finding purpose and commitment. We have spaces down here at the end of our building that we are working actively today, and I'm privileged to still be part of that as outgoing CEO, as an alum, to help continue to make these things happen that will be good for the Edge Hill community and for our veterans particularly. Operation Stand Down is about benefits for veterans, career paths, as Jim mentioned, housing, but also purpose and connection to the greater civilian community. We've been able to shift from responding to chronic homelessness to now be in a position to prevent homelessness and then a position to help veterans transition to where they can now maintain and sustain productive lifestyles in the civilian world. So I will leave with this. And I put on my colonel hat. And that is a call to action. Today is not the end of something. Today should be a call to action to continue the great, innovative teamwork that has brought us here. City leaders, the board of MDHA, developers, individuals and businesses across this city, other nonprofits, let not Curb Victory Hall be the last affordable housing model for veterans in this county. Let's commit to a full-court press to end veteran homelessness in Davidson County and Nashville, Tennessee. We are on our way. This shows it can be done, and we can do that. So with that said, it is my great privilege to introduce the gentleman who has given us this example and a path forward to more of these. Honored to call him friend and honored to call him a leader, Tony Giratana.
Humbling. Wow, I didn't expect any of that. My name is Tony. Like you, I'm blessed to be in this great city, in this great state, and on a day like this, it's easy to look around and just be thankful that we're right here in Nashville, Tennessee. From a bit of personal perspective, my dad was a barber. My mom worked in a savings and loan. We didn't have money, but my parents gave me something more powerful than money. They gave me encouragement and love, and anytime I had a dream, they were behind me on it, and taught me if you have a failure, get up, learn from it, move on. And so my life has been blessed richly. A wonderful wife and family, wonderful partners, wonderful team members at the office, just a lot of blessings. And like many people in Nashville that have been blessed, we sought out opportunities to give back. My longtime friend and partner, Mike Schmerling, and I did an entirely privately funded workforce housing project called the Pearl. We just broke ground on a second phase of that, which will bring us to 157 units. Again, totally privately funded. Driving by Operation Stand Down, I believe it was December of 2017. I drove by and I was thinking about Operation Stand Down and all the things that they do for veterans, and I made a U-turn. I hope that's not illegal. And I came back and asked to speak to who was in charge. And I met John. If you remember, John, my back went out. And one of the veterans gave me a cane to walk around so we could go see projects. I took that cane. But this project behind us, Curb Victory Hall, is the result of a lot of people, a lot of great people, putting their selfish interests aside and working to house homeless veterans. We hope that it is a prototype that can be replicated by other great developers and private sector donors and public entities. The easy math is we need 4 to get all the homeless vets out from under the bridges. Isn't that right? And it doesn't have to be us doing it. We would readily share whatever we've learned on this project with others. So we're thankful to be a part of it, and we encourage everybody in the community to keep it up and do more of this. Now it's my great pleasure to introduce Ralph Perry. Ralph Perry and I of THDA, Ralph Perry and I had never done a deal together. We met, we made a presentation, we understood that there was an innovative grant going to be offered by the state of Tennessee. The Colonel Harbison and I talked about it and said, what could be more innovative than this? A developer that's putting money in that's not going to own anything, not going to lease it, not going to manage it, just wants to bring the skill set to deliver it. A private sector partner in Mike Curb that was willing to put up money. So many individuals donated in kind their design and engineering and products. I mean, the list would be long. And I said, why don't we give this a go? And it was a fantastic presentation at 10 a.m. one morning. And at 3 o'clock that afternoon, we were rocking and rolling. So it's my great pleasure to introduce Ralph Perry, Tennessee Housing and Development Authority.
Thank you, Tony. Thanks very much, Tony. You know, for many years now, we at the Tennessee Housing Development Agency have made it a priority to especially support those who are working to provide housing opportunity for the men and women who volunteer for service in our armed forces and are in need of decent, safe, affordable housing. For all the reasons that you've heard Jim and Tony, this is why we wanted to be involved with it. This is why we were proud to work with MDHA and with Metro and John Crenson, who's, in disclosure, a former board member at THDA. We miss you. Tony and his development team. It all came together just very, very well for us. And this is what was persuasive for the panel of folks we brought together to award the innovative tax credits. And I have to compliment our friends at Pinnacle Financial Partners because they turned those tax credits into a $6 million equity stake. That's how that works. And we were pleased to provide an additional grant from our Housing Trust Fund. You know, folks, our nation's freedom and security are safeguarded by those who volunteer to serve in our armed forces. We owe them something, and none of them should be left to live alone on the streets of the nation that they honorably served. On behalf of all my colleagues at THDA, I would just assure all of you for whom this work matters so deeply that we intend to be in it with you. Of course, as your state housing finance agency, we operate under the oversight and with the support of the Tennessee General Assembly. And among those whose support has been particularly helpful to us in the last year is your fine state senator, Brenda Gilmore. So as I step aside, please welcome her with your applause.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Brenda Gilmore, your state senator, and it's just an honor to be here. When I was sitting here just looking at what bookends each corner, we have a housing development, development for seniors, our school over here, and then behind us, this fine development, the Curb Victory Center. It just reinforces my belief that Nashville represents the best of what America can offer, that we care about everybody. And when you read about affordable housing, it tells you everywhere that when we pay attention to affordable housing, it raises, I guess, the threshold of an entire city and a community. Crime goes down, and communities and neighborhoods are richer for it. I heard them calling you Colonel Harbison. I just want to thank you for serving our country, first of all. And then secondly, for what you have meant to Nashville. You have just paid so much attention to the housing for the underserved as if you were in the 37205 and 215 zip code. And that just means a lot to me personally, and it means a lot to this city. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. This city will miss you. And Ralph Perry, Mayor Cooper, and Tony Gerentana, I don't know, I can just say so much. What can we say? You've meant so much to this city. I know you're a businessman, and sometimes business people get a bad rap because we know that they want to make a lot of money. But not only have you made a lot of money, that our city is better as a result of you being here. And thank you from the bottom of my heart. This particular development means a lot to me in a number of ways. One, my husband was a veteran, and I thank him, and I thank all the veterans that are here today, and in this city for what you representative who has many titles, Harold Love, Reverend, Representative.
A project that has this kind of funding, that has this kind of partnership. And I will tell you that the district that I represent and have the privilege to represent says yes. We say yes to this project, we say yes to many, many more. And what that means when a district says yes is that partnerships are able to form and that geography matters. John knows that, in our conversations with this project, we started talking about HUD-VASH vouchers. And of course, Jim knows the power of those. And as other developers on this corridor started to hear about those vouchers, those conversations began, and more housing is hopefully going to become available for veterans throughout our city right here in the district. And that's the power of this. That's the power of rolling this all up together. So Ralph, next time you get an application in District 17, know there's a yes from me. Jim knows that. Mayor Purcell knows that. Mayor Cooper knows that. General Assembly knows that. We welcome this here, and we want to see more. Thank you so much, and I'm going to introduce a person who knows the value of affordable housing and is working more for it every day, Mayor Cooper.
Well, Colby, thank you for that kind introduction, and this is a incredibly beautiful November day for a great legacy project. And I want to acknowledge all the folks who've had the privilege of serving Nashville from being elected. And first, Mayor Purcell, it's such an honor. You planted a seed here. All of our greatness comes from standing on the shoulders of tall people. And Representative Love and Senator Gilmore and Councilman Sledge, and I don't know if Jay Strabino is here from Congressman Blackburn's office. We're going to need some help from the federal government time and time again in the years ahead, and we're going to solicit that help in advance. And our friends from the housing and development and veterans communities here, Ralph Perry, Tony Garantana, your creativity is so appreciated by your hometown. And John Crenson and Dan Heim and Sir Norma Mitchell, thank you. And it's a special privilege to recognize Rico Thompson, a veteran and a resident of Curb Victory Hall. But let me just spend a moment and tell Colonel Harbison it's a privilege to be here with his Silver Eagles on his shoulder. But today is an opportunity to celebrate our city's commitment to veterans. And that's what we have to emphasize is our commitment to veterans. And we're committed to working with government agencies and community partners to support our veterans, the men and women who served our country, who call Davidson County home. Of course, it's always a question is how did it get to this point, this heartbreaking statistic? How is it that we're in a city that has 170 homeless veterans? How do we serve them? Now, there are 37,000 veterans who live here in Nashville. Now, that's the second largest number in Tennessee. And I want to honor them and then be grateful to the nearly 700 veterans who, after serving their country, have come to work in public service as Metro employees. Now, our job is to help these veterans get access to services, to support and benefits, and to encourage the company who are employing these men and women to help make Nashville a rewarding home for them. Today's event is special because it touches on an element of serving those veterans, how we do right by our veterans, and that is housing. You could describe today's event as celebrating homes for heroes. But this milestone isn't taking place in a vacuum. In recent years, Nashville has established its first incentive program to encourage owners and landlords to rent to veterans experiencing homelessness. And through the city's Barnes Housing Trust Fund, we award additional points to proposals from nonprofit developers who commit to prioritizing housing for vets. Now, today is a new development that stands out because it brings the public and private sectors together in a creative way, not only to support veterans with housing, but also place organizations that provide other wraparound supports right here in the building next door. And I want to thank the partners who've made that step possible, the Metro Development and Housing Agency, Colonel Harbison and his board, to Tony Garantana, that anything getting done requires a creative spark. And for providing that to Operation Stand Down Tennessee, to the Tennessee Housing Development Agency, to the Tennessee Valley Healthcare System, and of course, to he who is not here today, Mike Curb, the industry executive who's made such a mark in Nashville with his philanthropy and his targeted, focused gift that has allowed this project to take flight. And finally, let me say a sincere thank you to our soldiers, to our veterans for answering our nation's call to serve and defend our democracy. This day after the election, we know how treasured that democracy is. It can seem under stress sometimes, but it will survive and prosper. And that's due to our veterans' commitment that gives us this moment to understand how fragile and treasured our democracy is. And to our veterans' families who sacrificed so much for them that they could serve us, and that their families that we are grateful The sacrifice happens at all kinds of levels, all of the time, and is rarely appreciated appropriately. So to their veterans and our families, we say thank you, and again, thank to each and every one of us, and to a bright future where we don't have to sit with masks on the side. We'll always know from the pictures of this exactly what year and when this happened, but we will get beyond this too and be a greater city on the other side. And for that, again, thank to all of you that made this possible. Appreciate it.
We've talked a lot about how it got here and why it's here, but it gives me a really great honor to introduce the real reason we're here. Rico Thompson is one of our lieutenants. He's a veteran of the United States Army. An 11 Bravo, if anybody is familiar with what that means he was an infantryman. They do the heavy lifting of combat. He served at Fort Bragg in the U.S. Army Reserves, and I'm proud to say I got to meet him today for the first time, but it is my honor to introduce you, sir, as one of our newest tenants as our representative veteran for the Kerr Victory Hall.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. So a little bit about my backstory. So my name is Rico Thompson. I'm a veteran of the United States Army. I was an airborne infantryman stationed in Fort Bragg, North Carolina from 2004 to 2007. It was the most unfortunate attacks of 9/11 which prompted me to serve and fight for my country. I'm a Tennessee native, born and raised in Union City, Tennessee. I have 2 boys, 3 girls, of whom reside in our great state. From the lessons I learned while serving in the military to the life lessons we all endure as of late, life throws you curveballs that you must overcome. And one such curveball I experienced as of late was a health issue which led me to being homeless. June the 1st of this year, I relocated to Kansas City, Missouri with the help of the Veterans Administration. By June the 16th, I was ill with major respiratory problems, chest pain, and trouble breathing. I checked myself into the ER of the VA in Kansas City, where I was tested 3 times within a week for the coronavirus, each test providing negative results. Eventually, I was released from the ICU and diagnosed with dyspnea and told that the virus has to run its course. Not being satisfied with the diagnosis and the treatment I received at the VA in Kansas City, Missouri, I reached out to my doctor here in Nashville. So he asked me to return for treatment. He also asked would I be interested into moving closer to the VA here in Nashville, and I expressed my concerns about being able to pay the rent here because it's very expensive, and being homeless. So Dr. Jones informed me about Operation Stand Down and other resources that will be available in this area that would assist me with my housing needs and lots of other issues or concerns that I may have. All right. I eventually settled on the room in the inn for transitional housing, where I met 2 other veterans whom I'm here with, who are not with me today, but we all live together at the Kerr Victory Hall, and they told me about it. And so, I ended up getting on the bandwagon, and I joined, and 4 months later, here we are, we moved in. And so I'd just like to say from the bottom of my heart to each and every one of you, and to all entities involved, for each and every one of us veterans that you help, thank you so much for making your dream our reality.
Private Thompson, thank you for your service. Thank you for your words, and I hope you like the apartment. I'm glad you're there. There are 2 entities we didn't touch on. You seem like you forgot somebody. Earl Swinson Architects, or Architects, great job. And R.G. Anderson, under budget, ahead of schedule. What else do you say about a contractor when they do that? So at this time, though, I'd like to welcome all the speakers that spoke, the mayor, everyone else, our board chair, Mayor Purcell, former Mayor Purcell, Arlie Haddix of the Operation Stand Down, Dan from the VA, Cernoma of HUD, David Berry, Earl Swinson, and Bob Anderson of R.G. Anderson. Please to join us at the ribbon. We have markers so we can be the appropriate distance apart, and we still have to wear our masks while we cut the ribbon. Thank you. Rico, you're cutting the ribbon, man.
We're gonna do a fake cut. We're gonna do a 1, 2, 3 fake cut, and then Michael's gonna take a photo, and then the second time we'll do 1, 2, 3 cut. 1, 2, 3 cut. Okay? So this is the fake one. All right, 1, 2, 3. Okay? All right, this is the real one. Everybody get ready to cheer. 1, 2, 3.